You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. As Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. You can make this possible. We talk about this election. Republicans are doing all they can to steal this election. Donald Trump has openly admitted that he is going to use the Postal Service. He is trying to purposely starve the Postal Service of money because of the push for mail-in balloting. If you want to know how vital mail-in balloting is, the state of Minnesota, last week had their primary, actually it was Tuesday. Guess what? They showed the highest voter turnout in 50 years as a result of mail-in voting. That is what Donald Trump fears. Here's the deal. If Trump was winning in the polls, you wouldn't see all of this, but he's not. And so the Republicans want to suppress the vote. They don't care if they are black, if they are white, if they are young, if they're old. They know that if they are able to get fewer people to vote, they stand a better chance of winning. Our goal is not to let that happen. Folks, what has been happening has been stunning, what we've seen during this pandemic. And again, Trump said on Fox that point blank, he is going to keep the money away from the USPS because of this very issue. This could be devastating in November. And so folks are doing all they can to stop it. Now, one day after he made these ridiculous comments on Fox News, we started seeing photos on social media of this. These are, look at this here. Please be advised that after 30 days of posting this notice, this USPS blue box located at 220 Tennessee Lane will be removed from service due to low volume. Alternative nearby USPS blue boxes can be found at this other address. But folks aren't buying that who work for the Postal Service. Residents of Portland and Eugene, Oregon, learn at least 31 mailboxes have been taken off the streets. Mind you, Oregon is one of those states where they vote by mail. Folks, the same thing has been happening in New York City, several other cities, and also in Montana. There's been no official communication from the Postal Service with state officials or residents. Folks who work for the Postal Service have been saying that it makes no sense. Not only are they taking mail sorting machines offline, they are removing them from locations. I got a text yesterday from a postal worker who said that a mail sorting machine in the south suburbs of Illinois has been completely removed. Now, here's the deal. If you want to sort mail, or let's say you were trying to save money and have fewer employees, why would you completely remove a mail sorting machine? Now, right now, they're saying low volume. But what happens if all of a sudden you see a massive increase in voting? Now you have more volume. Well, if the machine is still in place, you just simply bring it back online. Joining us right now is Cliff Albright. He is the co-founder of Black Voters Matter. Cliff, that is the real issue here. They cannot offer a real explanation for what they're doing because they have none.
Right, exactly true. And thank you for having me, Roland. And the fact is that we saw this coming a mile away, right? We were in litigation right here in Georgia on some postage issues way back in April. Way back when Trump first appointed DeJoy to be the Postmaster General. If you go back and you watch some of the coverage at the time, a lot of the people were talking about, oh, this is Trump's way of getting back at Amazon and Jeff Bezos. And folks like us were sitting here saying, this has nothing to do with Bezos. This has nothing to do with Amazon. This is about attacking vote by mail, attacking the post office in the midst of what is likely to be a national election largely by mail. And so we've seen this coming. This is another example where, file this under, y'all should have listened to black folks a long time ago, because we saw this coming a mile away. And so you're right. There is no explanation for this. There is no cost savings explanation. It makes no sense. Everybody knows, like asking the post office to make a profit is like asking the Army or the Navy or some other national service to make a profit. It's not about efficiency. It's all about the elections. It's all about stealing this election and the just blunt use of power, and to like removing mailboxes. Who does that? Somebody who is desperate to win these elections. And as you said, all of this is happening for two reasons. One, because of his standings in the polls, but two, because of what we've already seen in all of these states that have already had their elections. In Georgia, record turnout. In Kentucky, record turnout. Like you said, last week in Minnesota, in Michigan, record turnout. That's what has them so scared. And the more we see these results, the more you've seen these attacks on the post office ramp up.
And again, Cliff, when we begin to talk about, again, how they are trying to do this, we now, according to Vice News, they're reporting hundreds of mail sorting machines are being discontinued. And not just turned off, they are physically removing them from the post office. So as I said, if all of a sudden there's a dramatic increase in mail, the machines are gone, and they are essentially saying, well, you're going to go back to counting by hand. That's why you have a mail sorting machine.
That's right. And you're seeing that. You're seeing the attacks on the very rates that they use, right? That now states will have to, if the states are providing postage, that they won't be able to do so at the 20-cent rate, that it'll be at the 55-cent. With one decision like that, they've literally tripled the cost of what it takes to even execute and implement a vote-by-mail system. And so we're seeing all these things. And part of the reason why they're attacking the infrastructure is because they know that there are folks, that there are loyal public servants, loyal, mail people who, if they have the option, if they have the ability, they're going to try to do right and follow the law. So how do you counteract that? You take away the very infrastructure that they use. You take away the mailboxes. You take away the sorting machines, like you were saying. Pretty soon they'll be taking away the trucks. But this is, again, all about voter suppression. And what we're seeing, there are a lot of folks that when we talk about voter suppression, when we sound some of these alarms, they'll say, oh, no, it can't be that. It can't be that they'd be going to such lengths. Folks have got to believe what they're seeing right in front of their eyes, right? This is nothing but just a blatant attack on the Postal Service. It's not even just about cutting back their funding or refusing the increase. They are literally trying to dismantle this service.
And here's also downward stunning. The Postal Service, they have announced that because of what's happening, there could be major mail-in ballot delays. They sent letters to 46 states saying, hey, we may not be able to deliver these ballots in time. In Pennsylvania, the state is asking the state Supreme Court, as a result of this letter, to actually extend the deadline by which ballots can be postmarked. They want to extend it to November 6th, 3 days after the November 3rd deadline. We got that in going. And you mentioned in Kentucky, they have announced that they are going to also, again, be mailing out ballots. And what's crazy here that people don't quite understand, when you talk about mail-in balloting, while this is happening, Donald Trump and Melania Trump have requested their absentee ballots to vote by mail. And so they don't mind absentee balloting because Republicans have always done well in absentee balloting. They don't want mass mail-in voting because that means that everybody will be able to do it.
Right. And what you raised is so important about like the ways that like even some of these states and not all of them blue states, there are even some red states that are sounding this alarm. Right. And so but this is part of the reason why the Trump campaign and the Republican National Committee drastically increased their litigation budget. They knew that they were going to be following a strategy where they were going to be suing to try to limit access to the vote, largely to limit all these states that are trying to expand vote by mail. And so again, this is part of a very clear strategy that's got different layers to it. It's got layers that involves the attacks on the Postal Service. It involves the litigation against the states. It involves all kinds of misinformation about the vote by mail. Part of this is just to, even if they were to fail, let's say tomorrow that, the courts, the Supreme Court or whomever, were to reverse all these actions, let's say that Congress finally found a way to reverse some of these things, what they're betting on is that the damage has been done in terms of people's belief that vote by mail. We were already skeptical to begin with, but now we've got all these stories coming out. And so it's for them, they view it as a win-win. Either they get away with what they're doing, and that's going to limit the vote by mail, or even if it gets overturned, they will have decreased enough confidence that people won't use it, and then they'll be forced to have to show up in person, risking their lives, and then falling prey to whatever other voter suppression tactics they have waiting for folks showing up at the polling places.
Here's an anonymous letter that was posted from a postal worker. See, up until just 2 months ago, every letter carrier, clerk, mail handler, truck driver, etc., worked under one pretty simple philosophy: every piece, every address, every day. Everyone in the chain of custody for mail made sure every piece got as far along in the system as it could. And if it made it to my hands, in my office, it was getting delivered. That's how I've done it for my career, how the guys who have been doing it for 40 years have always done it. And that's literally how Ben fucking Franklin's guys did it. You can almost hear Aaron Sorkin's orgasm as he punches up the Bradley Whitford speech about the majesty of it all. But 2 months ago, it also is also when that abruptly stopped. After a couple hundred years, it just stopped. On the ground floor, there's a lot of arguing about who is ordering what and what's going to be permanent and what's going to be a trial run. But at the end of the day, the result is obvious. I go into my job every single morning and don't deliver hundreds of pieces of available mail that used to get delivered. The only reason given is some vague nonsense about operational efficiency and cost savings.
You know, it's amazing. You know, when we think about like these notions of American exceptionalism, right? There's these notions that there are some things that just could never happen in America, that could never happen in the United States, right? That you could never have somebody come and like just in front of our eyes just try to steal the election, whether it's by asking a foreign country for assistance or by attacking the Postal Service, which, like the person just said, has been around since, you know, the founding of the country, right? And so, you know, we have these beliefs about what is and is not possible. As Black folks in the country, we've always known that some of that stuff's been on shaky ground, right? We've always known that some of these notions of democracy are really negotiable. That you have some folks that, you know, this concept of majority rule and democracy and one person, one vote, it's a cute idea, but when it doesn't suit their interests, they are willing to do away with it. That is what we're seeing right in front of our faces. That some things that some folks have thought for centuries that they were untouchable, that all of them are being attacked. And it's happening right in front of our face. And some folks, even in the media, are still so shocked by it and still find it so hard to believe that it can happen in this country that they're not really giving it the coverage that it deserves. If we don't cover this issue of this voter suppression, both in terms of the Postal Service and the other forums that are taking place, then, you know, we're going to be in for a rude awakening come November 3rd, November 4th.
That was a podcast former President Barack Obama was on. It's the podcast of David Fluff, who used to work for him. And he said, quote, that the Trump administration was trying to actively kneecap the Postal Service to affect mail-in voting, and that citizens must do all they can to protect the integrity of the election. But here's the problem that we're dealing with, Cliff. The House clearly wants to do something. Republicans control the Senate. Haven't heard a peep from Republicans. Even Republicans from rural America. The very people who also can get hurt. See, that's the deal here. They will sacrifice their own people to cheat to win. That's what this is. This is trying to cheat to win, pure and simple. And they don't care. And so for Republicans to say nothing, they are just silent with what Donald Trump is doing.
It's silent and aiding and abetting, right? Like Mitch McConnell in refusing to move the new voting rights bill, refusing to move it forward. He's basically said, he's explicitly said, if we pass this stuff, if we pass these voting rights, if we make it a national holiday, if we expand this access, that Republicans will never win another election. He said this. Elected officials in Georgia have said this. They've come out their mouths in public And they've told us, Donald Trump just the other day has said this, right? And so what we're seeing is that, and it's right, just what you said about, they're willing to sacrifice their own. It's the same thing. It's the mirror image of what's happening on coronavirus, right? That they are so willing and determined to act like this is not an emergency, and they're so satisfied with the fact that Black folks are being hurt disproportionately that they're willing to sacrifice their own folks. It's the same thing from coronavirus to the elections to economic development in this country, right? It's the same thing over and over. This is how far some folks who are just trying to hold on to power will go. And Black folks have been experiencing this for decades, for centuries, and now the rest of the country is really getting a good look at what's in the underbelly of this democracy.
Absolutely, and I think, people need to understand they will lie, cheat, and steal in order to hold onto power. There's nothing that Donald Trump will not do, and so folks must be prepared. What are you telling people? Because, look, the reality is people can still request their vote, their ballot, but they don't have to mail it in. They can actually drop it off. Now we're hearing, Cliff, that Republicans are even going to fight drop-off boxes.
Right.
They're fighting that too.
That's right. They're fighting it all. And so, your question is, what do we say to folks? The first thing we say is that we recognize the fears that they have, the concerns that they have, that they're not crazy, right? That these are real concerns, to affirm that. But, to also give folks the confidence that we have a plan. And so organizations like ours, the partners we work with, other organizations all across this country, our legal partners like Legal Defense Fund and Lawyers Committee and Advancement Project and ACLU, that there are folks that have a plan on how to deal with these things, right? One, we're litigating. Like I said, we're in litigation in 2 states right now around some of these issues. And so we're litigating to fight the litigation strategy that Trump and the RNC are using. We're fighting to force states to do right, to pay for postage, to use drop boxes, right? So that's one part of the strategy. But the other part of the strategy is, just getting good information out there to folks about, starting early. If you give it, you can't give it 2 days notice, right? You can't expect to ask for your ballot a week before the election and to have any concept that is going to get there on time. And so trying to let folks know, if we start early enough, if we're vigilant enough, if we're fighting for some of these options like drop boxes and some other things, if we're fighting for codes and tracking systems so that we can track our ballots, then there is a way that we can continue to do what's already been done in all of these states during this pandemic, that there's already been record use of vote by mail, there's already been record turnout, that we can, even with everything that he's doing, that we can still fight this and overcome it. But the other piece of it is that we're also preparing backup plans so that if we can't get folks to use early vote, if we can't get them to do the vote by mail, then use early vote as much as possible. And if you're in a state that doesn't have early vote, then we just have to prepare and be ready for Election Day and do all the things we have to do to make sure that our folks are able to use their right to vote without risking their lives. And so that means giving out masks and giving out sanitizers and prepping for long lines and doing all those things that we need to do and getting accurate information out to people to fight the disinformation. So letting them know that their concerns are legit, but also letting them know that we have a plan on how to deal with this. If we work together, we win.
All right. Cliff Albright, co-founder of Black Voters Matter. We appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Roland.
Let's bring in my panel right now. Derek Holley, President, Reaching America, and political analyst. Also, Dr. Niambi Carter, and she's, of course, Howard University Department of Political Science, as well as Rob Richardson, the host of Disruption Now podcast. Derek, this is absolute cheating. This is what you're seeing here, where he just came out and said it. I am not going to give them the money because I do not like all of this mail-in voting. He is saying it. They aren't even hiding their effort to rig this election.
Sure, I'll go first.
No, I said Derek. I said Derek.
According to an NBC article, he pulled back on that statement. He said that he would sign any bill that had funding for the post office. And Roland, you got a haircut too, man.
Actually, let me correct you. He said, I will, if they got to agree to some stuff that I want.
No,
and
what he said was,
what did he say?
I will sign that bill if it include. He said, I'll sign a bill that included money for the post office if it gives us what we want.
That's what I just said.
What the American people want.
No. When he said what we want,
that's
he
what
ain't.
the quote is, bro.
No. When he said what we want, he ain't talking about the American people. He's talking
That's
about
what
what he
Roland.
wants. Okay, really? Yesterday, Larry
Yes. I didn't make it up.
Hold up. This is no different than what Larry Kudlow said yesterday on CNBC when he made it clear. He's like, yeah, these Democrats, they want all this other kind of stuff in here. And he specifically mentioned voting rights. And so, look, they have some issues on this one here. What you have here, again, is a clear and a deliberate attempt. And in fact, again, you want to understand who we listen to. This is Larry Kudlow on CNBC. Here we go to my iPad.
So much of the Democratic asks are really liberal left wish lists. We don't want to have voting rights and aid to aliens and so forth. That's not our game, and the president can't accept that kind of deal. So much of the Democratic...
That's not our game, Rod. President can't accept that kind of deal.
Yeah, look, yes, because the president is against democracy, and we ought to be very direct in what he's trying to do. They are trying to steal an election. They're trying to get rid of the rule of law. You know, the Republican whole premise here for a long time has been that you don't need government. You know, I think Reagan said government is not the solution, it's the problem. So they try to destroy it every way they can. And I guess they're convincing people by being so incompetent and then trying to actually destroy a system that we need in order just to have basic services in this country. So they want to destroy democracy. They want a dictatorship. They don't believe in rule of law. They don't believe in one man, one person, one vote. They do not believe in playing by the rules. They believe in just dictating and holding on to power. And we got to let people know that it's more than whether you like Donald Trump or not. It's not about if you even if you're a Democrat or Republican. Is do you want to have basic freedoms? You will not have them. If they can do this, if they can get away with just rigging the entire system, then they can do anything else. They can come after you. They can come after us and just make the rules up as they go along. So right now we have a democracy, but we're not guaranteed to keep it because this is we have to participate in this sport. It's not a sideline sport. We have to get out there, get involved, and there are things we can do. We can call our representatives, bug them, ring the phone off the hook. Make sure you understand going forward, we better win this election. And when we do, understand the power of the Postal Service and that government can make a difference. And do not allow these people to fool you again. They're not trying to improve your lives. They're not trying to do that. They're trying to take power, take money, and take away opportunities for people. That's what they're doing. And we need to stay woke, stay free, and keep fighting.
Dr. Carter, was so laughable listening to some of these people on the right talk about this here. I saw this one tweet. This woman was like, she goes, the Postal Service is not essential. The free market can fix this in an hour. Mm-hmm. The Postal Service is actually in the damn Constitution. It's literally written in the Constitution.
Well, I mean, I think all of this gets to this notion that if you start dismantling this system now for this election, the damage is going to continue beyond this election. So that's one part of it. We know that there are people right now who get medication through the mail, veterans, for example. We know that there are people who are waiting on checks to come in the mail right now and that are not having that mail come. I mean, in Ward 8, in this city alone, people are talking about going weeks, even months without mail. So, I mean, it's been a horrific moment, but this moment of sabotage and this sort of taking out systems, right? These mail sorting systems, telling postal workers they don't get paid overtime for delivering mail, stopping the workday at a certain hour. These will have long-term effects, and it will be difficult to change these things back because once you rip a system out, it's much more expensive to put it back in. And they're hoping to cause this disruption because they do understand how essential the Postal Service is, not just as a way for us to communicate with each other, particularly for underserved communities. They also know how essential the Postal Service is for as a place of work, right? We have to remember that about 30% of that 20% of that workforce is African American. So the Postal Service does a lot of work in our varying communities. So we have to think about the protection of this service beyond just this election, even though this election is the sort of most vital thing that's happening right now. There are going to be other spillover effects.
Derek, here's what's interesting. New Jersey is going to send out ballots to all 6.3 million residents. Republicans are whining and complaining and saying that, oh, this is awful and this just makes no sense as well. Listen to a Republican member of this Warren County Board of Chosen Freeholders. Quote, "It's a costly and inefficient way to run an election. We're going to see additional problems and delayed results." Derek, it's real simple. You're literally putting people's lives in danger by having them stand in long lines for hours to vote. I don't understand. If absentee voting right now is okay, why is this bad?
Roland, I really think, and if I can finish my statement, I just think this whole post office thing, it took off over the last couple of weeks. It just got wings now. It's just being overly politicized. And I got two homeboys. One I grew up with since the fifth grade, who works for the Postal Service. And I talked to him earlier before this call. And they were thrilled when this new guy came in as a Postmaster General, DeJoy, what's his name, DeJoy, because they were going to get a raise, a long time raise that they've been needing. The second thing is, Roland, I looked up a story about this Postal Service. NBC News reported it this afternoon. And according to David Pattenheimer, U.S. spokesperson, he says NBC characterized the removal of hundreds of machines as normal business adjustments. The removal of post boxes, the mailboxes, was normal procedure in areas that the mail is declined. Now, I don't know what's going to happen with this election, if we're going to have to stand in line or if we're going to do mail-in ballots, but I think the whole notion of them trying to steal the election and all these things, I just think it's being politicized. I really, really do.
But how's it being politicized when the president basically said the quiet part out loud? He said that this is why we don't want these mail-in ballots, because it will mean a loss for us. So what do you mean that it's being politicized? Yeah, absolutely. It is being politicized. This president has made it his business to go after any attempt to make voting easier and more accessible for American citizens. He knows that he will lose.
Let me ask you a question. Mm-hmm. You have a business, right?
So what?
You have a business, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Let's say you had a food business. Okay? Mm-hmm. And this is now August. And let's say you found out or you knew that there were going to be 8 or 10 events taking place in September. Is it fair to say that you as a business owner are going to be buying more supplies to cover the demand that you know you're going to get in September because of these huge events? Yes or no?
Yes, and according to this
One second. Hold on. No, 1 second. 1 second. No, 1 second. No, 1 second.
No, you don't want to hear the truth.
Hold up. No, wait. No, wait. Derek, allow me to finish. So let's take New Jersey. If you normally are getting 500,000 votes by absentee in the entire state, that's what you normally are going to get. Now, the state is going to mail out 6.3 million. That's literally 11 times more. So don't you think, if that's going to happen, that you're going to need all of those additional mailboxes? You're going to need those mail sorting machines because your volume is about to increase 11 times over. Yes or no?
What I think is, because you asked what I think, is this whole notion of the U.S. Postal Service is exactly doing exactly what it was inspired to do, is cause this whole conversation.
But who started it?
Democrats and Republicans.
No, but who started it?
According to Marty Johnson, the U.S. Postal Agency spokesperson, the U.S. Postal Service, and this is an article today, is well prepared and has ample capacity to deliver America's election mail.
Who does that spokesman work for? DeJoy?
Marty Johnson.
Who does Marty Johnson work for?
NBC article.
Who does Marty Johnson work for?
The U.S. Postal Service.
Rob, who did, what was the guy named Baghdad who gave all the interviews for Saddam Hussein? Who the hell did he work for?
I just gave you two different people from the Postal Service.
You still are not seeing it. Rob, Rob, this is real simple. If you know your demand,
these people know.
Excuse me. Any person with a business knows, if your demand is about to skyrocket, you want more capacity to handle what you normally would get. You're going to get 10 times that.
Roland, you don't work at the post office. These people do.
And I'll make this very simple. You're right, they do. And right now, the President of the United States has said he doesn't believe in mail-in ballots except for himself and in Florida and places he thinks he might win. But he thinks it's a big fraud, so he doesn't want the post office to have that. He said this. Look, we don't have to guess. So look, he is doing this in order to rig the election. You know, Roland, you always know what Republicans are doing by what they say others are doing. It's being politicized. There's voter fraud. That's what they're doing. They're trying to commit voter fraud by voter suppression. They're trying to rig the election. They're trying to politicize a whole department that shouldn't be politicized. The Postal Service should work for everybody. It was written into the Constitution, and it ought to work as its function to work. But it's not working that way. They want to destroy this. And if this gets destroyed right now, it could get destroyed going forward. It will change the whole nature of democracy if someone can just do this and just totally rig an election. So we don't have to guess. Trump said this. Like we don't have to guess what his plans are. He's very transparent.
And see here's the other deal right here. Here's the other deal, Dr. Carter. I just got this text from somebody who said that when people who get mail-in ballots, they can drop them off at polling places. There's a black box at polling places. Well, here's the deal. It all depends, first of all, if they have those boxes there. That's first. Other deal, though, is this here. What is actually easier for the consumer? See, when people say you can drop off your envelope at a drop-off box, well, here's the deal. Where are those drop-off boxes going to be? What neighborhoods are they going to be in? Is that going to require transportation for somebody to go 2, 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 miles for the drop-off box? The reality is this here. It's much easier for me to simply close the envelope, stick it in my mail. When they come pick it up, then it goes to the mail center. But to have, so it's amazing, Dr. Carter, also that Derek would sit here and try to say that the Postal Service spokesperson said we got more than ample capacity when the same Postal Service has sent letters to 46 states saying the opposite, saying we won't be able to meet your deadlines.
Well, I mean, look, doing all of this stuff is essentially putting a tax on voting, right? And we know any kind of taxes on voting are illegal. Right, we said that this is something that every citizen of the certain age, as long as they've met all these requirements, they're allowed to do. So moving mailboxes, making it more difficult for people to access the ballot is really a tax. And so we have to think about all of these things. Like you said, Roland, the people that we care about in these cases are the people who are most underserved. Because usually what happens in these suppression efforts, it's not going to matter probably for a person like me. I can figure out, I have a vehicle. I can get to a post office or get to a polling place. But if you're in a rural community or if you're in a part of the city that is not well served by public transportation, going a little bit farther, right? And I'm being facetious here, but like another 3 blocks, another 4 blocks, another 3 miles can be really insurmountable for some people. And so the I think most pernicious thing about voter suppression is it works on the margins. It's not the big to do, right? Like Derek is saying, this is not a big deal. It's not that big of an issue. But it's the small things that actually make a huge difference to the most endangered voters, right, in our political system. So this sabotage, because that's exactly what it is going to matter for the people who are less able to combat this kind of handicaps that he's putting in their way. He's just throwing up roadblock after roadblock. I mean, it's kind of flippant to say that this doesn't matter because a couple people at the post office like DeJoy. Right? Ask the Postal Workers Union what they think about this. They have a very different read on this. And if history is a teacher, Donald Trump should watch himself, because in 1970, Richard Nixon tried the same thing in the Postal Service strike, and it didn't turn out well. So I think we have to think about a lot of things here, not just, it's only going to be a small thing. Anything that happens that separates a person from their right to vote in the most accessible, easy way fashion possible is a problem.
Let me read this here, Derek, because you said, hello, Derek. You said you read from the NBC News. This is today's New York Times. Quote, the Postal Service has warned states that it may not be able to meet their deadlines for delivering last-minute mail-in ballots. Another development in a growing controversy over the new Postmaster General's handling of vote-by-mail operations as President Trump continues to rail against the practice. They sent letters in July to Pennsylvania, Florida, and Michigan and others. This is Thomas J. Marshall, the General Counsel for the Postal Service, warned that, quote, certain deadlines for requesting and casting mail-in ballots are incongruous with the Postal Service's delivery standards. Now, here's the problem, Derek, with this, okay? This is what they say. Many states have long allowed voters to request a mail ballot close to the election. Only one, Rhode Island, meets the standard now being suggested by the Postal Service. But the Postal Service suggested that the large volume of voting by mail at a time of widespread delivery delays meant that states would be better off building more time into their systems. Derek, you said that this spokesman says they have ample resources to handle all of this. This letter contradicts literally what you said.
Well, pull up the NBC article. You want me to send it to you so you can pull that up and put it on the screen?
Derek, I'm reading. Derek, this is from the. But Derek, hold up.
Derek,
so wait, Derek, 1 second, Derek, are you suggesting that the General Counsel of the same Postal Service?
I'm suggesting one
second. Are you suggesting that the General Counsel of the Postal Service doesn't know what he's talking about?
I'm suggesting you pull up the article that I just read from, because NBC obviously has conflicting stories.
No, actually, it's not. Actually, it's not NBC. Hold up, Derek. Derek, I'll let you speak. It's not NBC with conflicting stories. It's no, Derek. It's not NBC with a conflicting story. It's Derek. Let me help you out. Let me talk slower. No. Derek, let me talk slower so maybe you'll get this. Derek, let me talk slower. There's an NBC News article quoting a spokesman for the Postal Service, right?
Let me send this to you.
There's an NBC News article quoting a spokesman for the Postal Service. Then there's a New York Times article quoting the General Counsel of the Postal Service. Derek, the problem here is not NBC and the New York Times. The problem is that the people with the conflicting viewpoints are the Postal Service execs who serve DeJoy. That is where the problem is. So they're feeding us lies, Dr. Carter. They're trying to tell us two different things. One says we're going to have delays. Wait, hold up. One says we're going to have delays. The other says, hey, we're not going to have delays. Which one is it?
Let me finish what I was going to say. You said you were going to let me finish. You said you were going to let me finish. Right
now, I have not been getting my mail regularly, and neither have many of my other D.C. residents. So if this is happening now, I have no expectation that by November, the Postal Service will be able to handle the amount of ballots they're going to get as the weeks roll into November. So, I mean, I'm going to err on the side that they don't have the capacity, and that's on purpose because, again, the president has told us this. DeJoy has made sure he's done things to slow down the Postal Service. I mean, if you're willing to believe a man who's told 20,000 lies, right? As of last month, it was 20,000. I'm sure it's more now. In the last 4 years, then you'll believe anything.
All right, Derek, go ahead.
I was just going to add, man, you talk about this stuff that could or couldn't happen, with mail-in balance and stuff like that. Shorty, I got a piece of mail over on my desk, and it's addressed to my mom, Ann Holly. I get calls and mail for my mom, and she's been passed. She's dead 20 years now. I got another partner, conversely, who's been living up here in Maryland for 25 years and got mail sent to his mother's house. So to think that the post office can't make mistakes inadvertently, and I'm not saying that they're doing it on purpose, but it happens, bro. Because I'm dealing with it right now with my mom. And so to think that somebody couldn't get a ballot in a box and vote, I think that I just don't think that's right.
Derek,
to even believe that
Derek,
that's
one second, Derek. Let me help you out with this.
You ain't gotta help me out with
No,
nothing,
actually, I have to help this grown ass Omega out because clearly the example that you just gave is utterly ludicrous. Here's why. No. I'm giving you facts. Let me explain to you process.
That's your opinion.
No, Derek, you just said I still get mail from my mom who's deceased. Are you getting ballots for your mother?
I didn't say ballot, Roland.
That's my point.
I didn't say
That's my point. Second of all, even allow me to finish. Even if a ballot is sent to your home, there's still allow me to finish. There still is a process that even if that ballot was fraudulently returned, there's a process on the end that also will be able to verify this very thing. That, Rob, is what Donald Trump and these Republicans don't want to talk about. Because, see, you can't tell me the process that exists for a live person is the same process for somebody deceased. There's verification on the other end.
Yeah, well, Derek, you have a better chance of going out and being the MVP for the NBA than you do for committing voter fraud. It does not exist. This is some shit y'all make up. In order to...
Derek, let him finish. Now let you respond.
Listen, y'all make this up in order to suppress the vote. This is the strategy. Distract. Say, oh, well, look, we can get a fake ballot. People can commit fraud this way. They are trying. You always know the tell. It's what you're trying to do. It's what Republicans are trying to do. They commit a fraud by saying others are committing fraud. I
got to do this here. I want to bring in Alicia Garza right now, Black Futures Lab, because, again, what we're dealing with here, I'm going to talk to her about a couple of things, but I do want to get her thought on this because, Alicia, Black people have had to jump through hoops. We've had to jump over hurdles. And this is simply the latest. You and others, myself, we've been warning all of our people. We know it's coming. We know what they're going to do. And they're going to try to cheat. We're already seeing this. And that's exactly what this is.
That's absolutely right. And at the end of the day, the hurdle, there are several hurdles in front of us. One is getting our folks to turn up and turn out, because we are, in fact, facing massive voter suppression, whether it be through disinformation or whether it be through the attacks on the Postal Service, or simply whether it be failed leadership at the head of this country that still believes that this pandemic is a hoax. We have lots of hurdles to overcome leading up to the election. But I think we should not also forget that, if we're able to vote this president out, he is not going to leave without a fight. And so there's an even bigger hurdle that we have to face if we are victorious at the ballot box in November. So there is a lot at stake here. And I do think it's important for us to call this what it is. These are directed, intentional, strategic attacks intended to keep the most active, the most progressive, the most visionary voters at home. That's just facts.
All right, folks, back to our Roland Martin Unfiltered video in just one moment.
It's time to be smart. When we control our institutions, we win. This is the most important news show on television of any racial background. Y'all put $2, $3, $4, $5, $10, $15, $20, $30 on this and keep this going. What you've done, Roland, since this crisis came out in full bloom. Anybody watching this, tell your friends. Go back and look at the last 2 weeks, especially of Roland Martin Unfiltered. I mean, hell, go back and look at the last 2 days. You've had sitting United States senators today, Klobuchar and Harris. Whatever you have that you can bring to Roland Martin Unfiltered to support it, please do, because this information may literally save your life.
Watch Roland Martin Unfiltered daily at 6 p.m. Eastern on YouTube, Facebook, or Periscope, or go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered Daily Digital Show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.